You looked so different, like a canvas repainted with colors I didn't know could exist in you. I almost didn't recognize you because the person before me carried the echoes of 1,000 untold stories. You looked so different, as if every step you took was a step away from who you used to be. When I saw you, the distance between us wasn't just physical. It was the space your soul traveled. You looked so different, like a photograph blurred at the edges, but still capturing a familiar heart. I almost didn't recognize you because your silence held the weight of battles I never saw. You looked so different, stronger, quieter, carrying a wisdom that only time and pain can teach. I saw you, and the years had drawn new lines on your face, but your eyes still told the same truth. You looked so different, like a story rewritten by life's unexpected twists, full of chapters yet to be told. I almost didn't recognize you because the person standing there was both a stranger and a memory. You looked so different, transformed by moments of loss, love, and the fierce will to keep going. When I looked at you, I saw a soul that had danced through fire and still chose to shine. You looked so different, like a melody changed by time but still hauntingly beautiful. I almost didn't recognize you because the world had carved its stories into your skin and your smile. You looked so different, yet in your gaze, I found the familiar spark of the person I once knew. I saw you, and the change was not just in your face, but in the way you held your heart. You looked so different, like a rose that bloomed after enduring the harshest winter. I almost didn't recognize you because your silence spoke louder than words ever could. You looked so different, as if you had become a poem written in the language of survival. When I saw you, it felt like meeting a ghost of the past wrapped in the skin of today. You looked so different, reshaped by moments no one witnessed but left their mark on you. You looked so different, like a river changed course but still flowing toward the same ocean. I saw you, and it was like reading a book I loved, now with pages worn and rewritten. You looked so different, yet beneath the change, the essence of you quietly remained. I almost didn't recognize you because your heart had grown beyond the boundaries we once knew. You looked so different, changed by the storms, yet stronger and more alive than ever. When I looked at you, I saw a stranger who carried the memories of someone I once loved. You looked so different, like a sunset painted with colors I had never seen before. I almost didn't recognize you because your smile was a mask. Faded. I saw you, and the years had rewritten your story in ways I was just beginning to understand. You looked so different, like a flame that had survived countless winds but refused to go out. I almost didn't recognize you because the person before me was a blend of shadows and light. You looked so different, like a song that changed key but kept its melody close to heart. When I saw you, I realized that change is not an end, but a new beginning disguised as loss. You looked so different, yet somehow your presence still felt like the home I once knew. I almost didn't recognize you because the wounds you carried were invisible but deeply etched in your soul. You looked so different, softer, stronger, and more beautiful in ways I never imagined. I saw you, and the difference was in the quiet strength that only pain and healing can build. You looked so different, like a photograph faded by time, but holding onto its story. I almost didn't recognize you because your silence was louder than the words we never spoke. You looked so different, changed by life's lessons, but still carrying the soul I once loved. When I looked at you, I saw a stranger with familiar eyes, someone I wanted to understand again. You looked so different, like a dream transformed by waking, but still magical. You looked so different, as if the years had written a new song on your heart. I saw you, and the change wasn't loss. It was growth, even if it hurt to watch. You looked so different, a testament to the beauty that can grow from broken places. I almost didn't recognize you, but then I saw the flicker of who you used to be. You looked so different, like a flower, blooming after a long and silent winter. When I saw you, I realized that even though things change, some parts of us remain sacred. You looked so different, yet the soul I knew was still quietly beating beneath the surface. You looked so different, like someone who had traveled 1,000 lifetimes, but still carried the same silent longing. I almost didn't recognize you because the spark in your eyes had changed, not faded, just rewritten. You looked so different, like a story paused, edited, and resumed in a new language only your soul understood. I saw you, and the difference was in the way you held your scars, not hidden, but worn like armor. You looked so different, like a photograph weathered by time, but still holding the outline of a smile. I almost didn't recognize you, because the person before me was shaped by storms I never witnessed. You looked so different, softer, stronger, and somehow more alive than the memories I had. When I saw you, it felt like meeting a stranger who shared the same heartbeat as my past. You looked so different, as if the years had rewritten your script but left your soul's signature intact. I almost didn't recognize you because the silence between us had grown into a language I didn't know. You looked so different, like a river reshaped by rocks, flowing new paths, yet still moving forward. I saw you, and your face told a story I never knew existed, but wished I could read forever. You looked so different, the reflection of pain, growth, and the hope I didn't realize you still carried. I almost didn't recognize you, because life had painted shadows on your soul I never imagined. You looked so different, like a star that faded only to shine brighter in a darker sky. When I looked at you, I saw a stranger wearing the memories of someone I once held dear. You looked so different, changed by invisible battles and silent victories that no one else could see. I almost didn't recognize you because your heart had learned to hide beneath layers of strength. You looked so different, like a poem rewritten by time, loss, and the quiet wisdom of healing. I saw you, and it was as if the years had sculpted a new version of the person I once knew. You looked so different, not lost, but transformed into something I wanted to understand. I almost didn't recognize you because the fire you carried was now tempered by a calm I didn't expect. You looked so different, like a psalm whose melody changed, but whose soul remained familiar. When I saw you, the past and present collided, leaving me breathless with what was and what became. You looked so different, yet beneath the change, I could still find the echo of your laughter. I almost didn't recognize you, because your eyes held stories that words could never tell. You looked so different, as if the pain you endured had carved out a new space for hope. I saw you, and the difference was in your silence, louder than any conversation we ever had. You looked so different, like a river that changed course but still reached the same ocean. I almost didn't recognize you because the person you became was shaped by shadows I never saw. You looked so different, stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than the memories I once kept. When I looked at you, I realized change is the art of becoming someone new while holding on to the old. You looked so different, like a leaf carried away by the wind, but rooted deep in the same earth. I almost didn't recognize you because your smile was both a shield and a beacon I didn't understand. You looked so different, yet I found traces of who you were hiding beneath the surface. I saw you, and the years had rewritten your face, but not the story written in your soul. You looked so different, a quiet revolution wrapped in the gentleness of survival. I almost didn't recognize you because the wounds you carry have made you both fragile and fierce. You looked so different, like a photograph, blurred, but still capturing the essence of a moment. When I saw you, I realized sometimes change means finding yourself in someone you once loved. You looked so different, like a song that changed tempo but kept the same haunting melody. I almost didn't recognize you because the person standing before me was shaped by storms and light. You looked so different, not broken, but beautifully remade by time's tender hands. I saw you, and your eyes told stories that the world never had the patience to listen to. You looked so different, like a flame rekindled after years of silence and cold. I almost didn't recognize you because the person you are now wears a strength I didn't know existed. You looked so different, yet the soul, the highs. When I looked at you, I felt the weight of the years between us, heavy and light all at once. You looked so different, as if life had painted you with colors only pain and hope can mix. I almost didn't recognize you, because your silence spoke louder than all the words we left unspoken. But in your gaze, I found a familiar flame I thought was lost forever. You looked so different I almost didn't recognize you. Like the person I once knew had been rewritten by the world's quietest storms. When I saw you, I hesitated. The face was familiar, but your eyes told a story I never expected to hear. You looked so different, as if time had carefully sculpted every line and shadow to hide the memories we once shared. I almost didn't recognize you. The person before me was a stranger wearing the clothes of my past. You looked so different, like a book I loved that had been rewritten with a different ending. Your smile was the same, but everything else spoke of silent battles and lessons no one else could see. I almost didn't recognize you, because you carried a weight I never knew existed beneath your calm surface. You looked so different, like a butterfly that had finally broken free from a cocoon of pain. I saw you, and the person I remembered was gone, replaced by someone stronger, softer, and harder to reach. You looked so different, I wanted to ask what made your eyes lose their innocence, yet keep their fire. The familiar shape of your face was there, but something inside you had changed, like a river carving new paths. You looked so different, and I wondered if the world had been kinder to you, or if you just learned to survive better. When I looked at you, I saw a stranger with familiar eyes, a puzzle missing pieces I once held. You looked so different, like a melody rearranged in a way I couldn't quite understand, but wanted to learn. I almost didn't recognize you, because the light inside you had dimmed and yet somehow shined brighter. You looked so different, as if life had rewritten the story you thought was yours alone. I saw you, and the difference was in the quiet strength you carried, the kind that only pain can teach. You looked so different, like a shadow I once chased, but could no longer catch. I almost didn't recognize you, because the dreams we shared seemed like distant stars fading in your new sky. You looked so different, as though time had peeled back your layers to reveal a soul, unguarded but scarred. I saw you, and in that moment the years fell away, but left behind a stranger's face. You looked so different, changed by moments that never made the headlines but shaped every breath. I almost didn't recognize you, because the laughter I loved was replaced with silence and a knowing glance. You looked so different, like the person I knew had been reborn in a storm I never saw coming. I saw your face, but it was a mask I didn't know how to read anymore. You looked so different, like a story I wanted to rewrite, but didn't know where to begin. I almost didn't recognize you. The light you carried had been traded for shadows I didn't understand. You looked so different, but the truth in your eyes was the only thing that remained familiar. I saw you, and it was like looking at a photo that faded but still held the shape of a memory. You looked so different, not less, not more, just changed in ways that made me wonder who you had become. I almost didn't recognize you, because you were both the person I lost and the one I hoped to find again. You looked so different, like a poem rewritten by pain and healing. When I saw you, the past and present collided in a moment of beautiful confusion. You looked so different, it was as if the years whispered secrets in your silence. I almost didn't recognize you, but then I saw the flicker of who you once were, buried beneath. You looked so different, like a flame tempered by storms, flickering but never extinguished. I saw you, and the face was new, but the soul held the echo of old songs. You looked so different, as if every step away had rewritten the person standing before me. I almost didn't recognize you. The changes weren't just on your face, but deep in your quiet strength. You looked so different, like a painting faded by time but still holding its essence. When I saw you, I realized change is the only constant we both feared and embraced. You looked so different, and yet, in your eyes, I found the home I thought I lost. I almost didn't recognize you, because the wounds you carried were invisible but undeniable. You looked so different, transformed by things you never said and moments you never forgot. I saw you, and the difference wasn't in your face, but in the way you held your silence. You looked so different, like a sunrise after a long, dark night. Unfamiliar, but full of hope. I almost didn't recognize you, because the person I knew was now a whisper in your steady breath. You looked so different. But in that difference, I saw a story, worth listening to again. I saw you, and it was like meeting a stranger who once shared my dreams.